Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome back to 2.5 Talent. It's been a hot minute. We're into the new year. Lots of stuff to discuss. We're going to bring you a relatively quick episode before we go on with the rest of our days. We've got a few key topics to talk about over the last few months. We'll be diving into a little bit of what we've just seen from Blast Spring Groups. We're going to dive in towards the RMR coming up. We've got Kato Play-ins around the corner as well. And of course, right at the start of the year with the HLTV Awards, which is what we're going to kickstart things with. But before we get into all of that, we're going to do what we always do. Lads, have you been? What have you been up to? Trav, you want to kickstart us? What's the start of the year been looking like for you?
It's been fun. It's been fun. I've been, of course, very honoured to go to the HLTV Awards with you and meet up with so many, people from the industry and so many colleagues and so many people that it's just nice to have a chat with again. And such a great setting as well, which of course we will get onto. But how well that event, of course, was run. It was just really, really enjoyable. And I've got a few, of course, proper online casts to be coming soon. Other than that, I think other than doing some online qualifiers, which I always love to stream, that's about it really.
Nice. Paladin, what have you got for us?
Travis is selling himself short, man. He popped off with the
I'm going to say,
Open quals.
yeah.
His
That was
stream
really
just
fun.
popped
The
off.
RMR quals was really fun.
Yeah, no, it was. I didn't nearly have as much success as he did because you can't touch him when it comes to that.
Yeah.
I'd
Man breaks
I'd
four
like to
figures
think that-
easily.
I know. I'd like to think that I still had a pretty successful one for my standards, my low standards on my Twitch channel, and that was really fun. Covered some of the NA Open qualifiers as well with Dust 2, and it's really nice that website is running the NA Open qualifier, closed qualifier streams as well. It's nice for the region, and really was helpful for them to bring on people from the region as well. So. That was fun. Yeah, we had the Chengdu NA and SA qualifiers that I did, and then EPL qualifiers as well for South America. So yeah, it was a pretty relatively busy January surprisingly, just considering how the season was able to start almost pretty much instantaneously. And yeah, I mean I was there in attendance for the award show in Twitch chat, and got to watch it, and I'm sure we'll be able to compare and contrast. What our experiences was, because I'm actually very curious to see what it was like for you guys. We talked about it a little bit here and there, but I actually want the full breakdown. And I'll definitely let you guys in as to what I thought of it all. But yeah, it's been a really good January. Like probably one of the better Januaries that we've had at the start of the season because it started just almost immediately.
Yeah, I guess I think January's always kind of like, for us as like freelancers, is always like the worst. You come into the year. Basically everyone's shitting themselves. You don't know like what the year's gonna be like. It's really uncomfortable, I think, basically unless you're tier 1. I mean, those guys obviously they have very good knowledge of where they stand in kind of the general hierarchy, but it's a little bit of a bloodbath in kind of the tier 2. We don't never really know kind of where we're at. So I think coming towards the year, I was definitely pretty uncomfortable. I had no real kind of conversations that we're having, but it does open up quite quickly. I think once the season starts, I mean ESL gets underway so quickly with. I mean, we came in towards this. We had IEM, like you said, quals coming through. We've had Pro League qualifications off the bat, and Challenge Leagues are about to start as well. So it's been pretty kind of thick and fast into the action, which I think is always good. And I think that's how you can kind of get things started. And of course, we've got like kind of Blast quals coming up in due time as well. So a lot kind of to discuss, so to say. But what we can start with is, of course, HLTV Awards. Myself and Trav were there. In attendance, Paladin was there in spirit. It was fun. We flew out to Serbia. So me, Trav, Scriv, Ted, and Alan, all. So for those who don't, so Scriv, who I cast with regularly, Alan Hender, who you've seen working on the likes of the Major and a lot of ESL stuff. Ted as well has worked with ESL, done a lot of stuff in the tier 2. One of the kind of the bigger names within kind of the Bulgarian scene, probably the kind of face of Bulgarian commentating. And a good friend of ours as well. So we were all together. So you had the choices of kind of where you wanted to stay. There was a few different hotels, or you could go at Rogue, and that's what we did. So there was the Hyatt Regency, which was the main hotel where kind of most of the HLTV stuff was held. It was very expensive for Serbia, and we were like, well, this is like a 5-star hotel, fair enough, but we're here for 2 days and we're barely going to be in the hotel. Why don't we try and find somewhere like that ticks the boxes, but it's also kind of nice as well. Did a little searching on bookings.com, and we found a really nice place. It was actually a 4-star hotel on the river, and it was like, rather than like, I don't know, like 150 quid a night, it was like 30 quid a night each. It It was very nice. I stayed with Trav, as we always do. It was good times. It was actually a really nice hotel, to be very honest. We got free breakfast as well, which I can't complain with. So we started on quite a high note, bar the fact that when we've landed in Serbia, so we go to get a taxi. They don't have like Uber, so you kind of just have to get like an actual taxi. Apparently they can like scam you, right? First of all, the taxi. So you have to like go to like this like government official, tell him where you want to go, and then he gives you a voucher which has the exact amount you're going to pay on it. Then you give to the taxi driver, because if you don't, then the taxi driver can kind of basically charge you whatever you want, whatever he wants, which always means that they just like completely destroy anyone who's like not from Serbia. So we give this address, and I'm showing the hotel. I show the hotel to the government guy. He puts an address down. We give it to the taxi guy. We get the taxi. We drive like 20-ish minutes. Bear in mind, it's like -6-7 degrees, full snowing. It's cold, right? And we've all got like little kind of mini suitcases. Anyway, so we land. We drive for like 20-25 minutes, and we get out, and he's like, "Oh, this is the address." I'm like, "All right, perfect, man. Thank you very much." Pay the guy, and he goes off. And then so Alan gets up on his phone. He like gets to like, he's only one with data, so he got some Google Maps. Like, right, where we walking? You know, what 2-minute walk are we doing from here? No, 45-minute walk. So we were so far away. So in -7 or whatever, we had to walk 45 minutes just along this river, just all the way.
It's like the longest path in history, wasn't it? Like the path goes along the whole river to it's just like snow on like, it's literally, you're walking through like a grey painting basically. It was just so wild. But you know, it adds to the charisma of the trip. So there you go.
Yeah. It was funny though. It was funny. I mean, we kind of did that walk. We got there, and then we were like, all right, cool. And then we settled in, and it was good. So day one was the mixer. So it was kind of, you turned up, some drinks, just like general kind of networking,
canapes and stuff.
Yeah, saying hello to people and stuff. It was pretty good. So I think it's like the first like 4 hours was like unlimited drinks and food just for free, which, you know, credit to HLTV, man. Like, you know, that you don't really expect that. I mean, even like, I'm trying to think when's the last time, even like, so like for example, Cologne, I guess, bar the beers that you get with the premium tickets, you still have to pay for your drinks, or like at the Blast, Paris Major, even though with VIP, you still pay for your drinks for most of them. But yeah, to give us like kind of free drinks and stuff, that probably set them back a fair whack. So credit to them. Thank you, Prof and Striker. And all the boys at HTV, of course. But it was good. It was good. We got to catch up with all the boys that we haven't seen in like a long time, basically. Like some of the guys, you know, I think one that kind of like notably comes to mind is like Oversaid, for people who kind of in the tier 2. I must have known Oversaid now for like 3.5 years. He's a bit of a veteran, basically, of the tier 2 scene. Never met him, so it's quite cool. Got to like, you know, meet guys that I've known for like 3 and a bit years, but haven't actually got the chance to meet. So it was quite good.
Yeah, I loved it, man. I mean, honestly, I didn't really have a bad thing to say about the actually attending the event itself. I think, everything was put on really well. Everything was organized really well. And even when we, finished spectating the event in the arena, which was a lovely arena, by the way, lovely area outside the actual place where you walk in, like all the drinks tables, and like everyone going round, and like, where the red carpet bit was, you know, really, really amazing. And it's so nice, of course, to get pictures with all the lads as well, which is super special for all of us, of course, for a first-time sort of thing to have an experience like that. But, you know, even after that, which was pretty amazing and really enjoyable, you got to go to that little sort of mini after-party thing they had at the hotel, and they had little, what was it, like hangover kits or whatever, with a water bottle, like magnesium, vitamin C tablet. It was so cute. It was so nice.
They treated us well, and then, like, you know, all the things around the award show were very well done. I think like HTV kind of kept us like quite busy, I would say. The pre-mixer, then into that went being pretty late into the night, and then after that we went to a karaoke bar, which was that was like cursed, but in like some of the funniest ways. So it was like, you know, like a 15-minute like taxi from the hotel, go to this karaoke bar. You know, this is not really affiliated with HLTV. This is just us, like, you know, the lads, right?
Fucking around.
Yeah, exactly. So go to the karaoke bar. There's like these Danish dudes who are on a holiday, and they were loose, dude. They were so loose. Like, I think like, it was like, I can't remember exactly the song which it was. It was something like "Life is a Highway" or something along those lines. Like that level of like, you know, pretty like, I respect it kind of thing. Anyway, one guy gets his kit off straight away. He's like topless, doing the whole lot, like knee sliding along the floor. No one knows this guy as well. He's just going for it. So very, very funny. And then yeah, awards day was pretty chill. I went for a really nice like lunch. So we were.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. Yeah,
we had like basically most of the day to kill. So it started with me, Trav, and Alan taking a taxi into like kind of the center of Serbia. There's like a restaurant that HTV had kind of a recommended sort of thing to us.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, cool, we'll go there. Get out of the taxi. None of us had cash. That was a bit of a faff. Get there in the end. Anyway, go for this food. It was unbelievable. Like, you know, this is like proper like close to like Michelin star-esque food here. But we were paying like, I think your pasta was like what, £2?
I don't understand. Like literally, I had a dish of pasta. Obviously, as some people may know, I have dietary requirements for my health and blah 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 and all that sort of stuff. So I had I try and usually eat things that I sort of know what they are rather than experiment too much. And then I had the penne pasta or whatever. It was in a really nice sauce, really flavorful. And it turned out, like looking at the bill afterwards, like it was like 200 dinar, which is like something ridiculous, like £2. Yeah. It's like, what the hell? Like what kind of, this is absolutely wild. And the stuff that you guys had looked really, really good, even though I wouldn't eat it. It looked really, it looked really, really, really good. And the desserts look amazing as well. Like
I had a king prawn risotto with a like an apple and cinnamon pie, and I think it was like £8 in total for all of it. And it was just like unbelievable. Anyway, then the awards ceremony started. I guess that's where we can like kind of dive into the more niche things that we actually care about, like the actual awards themselves. Before we do, I guess we can look at a little picture. That was us there. I do have a picture of all of us, like the proper one.
Do you want me to send that to you?
Yeah, but it's it was too big for my framing here. I couldn't fit it, unfortunately.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because like on Instagram,
they only do vertical and you can only do a horizontal, but you can't do both.
You can't do some portrait and horizontal. You can't combine them for some reason. I don't know why. This is here we go.
Send it in the Discord. Yeah.
There it is. There it is. So that was us as we arrived to the red carpet. It was good fun, man. I haven't worn a suit since working in finance, so it was very fun to be able to kind of whack one on and like. Feel
good, you know. Yeah, get a bit of self-confidence going, There you go.
Yeah, exactly. What we can do though, we can dive into the awards and kind of discuss how we feel about them overall. I think for the most part they were pretty, pretty standard, but we can discuss how we feel. I think so. Orpa, easy one to start. We've got it up here as well. The 3 nominees: Brokey, Manesi, Zaiwu. I don't think that is too much of a doubt in my mind. I think the only thing I saw people talk about was maybe did Sampaius in terms of how he broke out deserve a kind of a nod over the likes of a Brokey, but I think Brokey was just so good that those three for me felt like they were just so much ahead of everybody else. I mean, I do agree to a degree that Sampaius did break out really well this year, but whether it makes him top 3 because he broke out, I don't think necessarily. So I think for me, the top 3 and then of course Zaiwu winning it, I don't think it's too much of a shock. I don't really think there's too much debate here.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of a dip in performance at Sampaius in CS2 as well, where Brokey had to rise up. And I think overall, I think you need more trophy placements for Sampaius. Yes. I think there's just a lot of things that Sampaius are just missing out on that I would have personally taken Brokey just in terms of consistency.
Agreed.
But yeah, I think this is a pretty open and shut case for me. I think the only real thing is that I think the awkward conversation is a little odd because Zaiwu does opt in to use a rifle a lot of the times. So you could say Manesi and Brokey use the op better in a way, but I think that just comes down to the awards being a little finicky. But yeah, I'd give it to Zaiwu every day.
Yeah, Trav, you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the boy swept the awards, isn't he? So it was just one of a few. Let's put it that way.
I like his little celebration when he wins them as well. It's like anime pose, like he's like legs apart. Into IGL, again, I kind of feel like awards is like a big thing here. I thought there's maybe some pretty big arguments to be made in terms of obviously. With Carrigan, there was the Grand Slam, and then on top of that as well, there was just that CS2 tenure, the second largest winning streak of all time, just behind NRP's 87-0. Like an insane run in towards CS2, winning 3 tournaments back-to-back, CAC, Sydney, and Thunderpick, or 3 S-tier tournaments. And then also there was Ents, who went on like some terrific runs throughout the year. So I feel like this one maybe, to me, felt a lot more hotly contested compared to the Orpa conversation, but obviously just the Apex as well. Winning the major, winning Blast finals, and also playing very well as well, I think helped considerably to him.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think the biggest thing that helped Apex as well is that I think looking at his obviously career history, I think it's even something they mentioned in the in his acceptance speech and stuff like that, right? Like just where he began in his career, being an entry fragging monster who maybe some people would consider only really knew how to entry frag and was sort of a bit brainless in that sense. I think someone famously once said of Freiburg that if he ever IGL'd, we'd be in trouble, and he did end up IGLing in the end in some teams. But yeah, he just leads superbly, and it's so obvious how passionate he is and how he, especially when you hear those little clips that Blast play and sort of like those little bits and pieces. It's I mean, he's just a leader through and through these days, and he deserves it for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think the big thing for me is the fact that he was able to integrate brand new players in pretty regularly and win tournaments off the rip. Like integrating Flames was probably good for them in a lot of senses, and I think that role kind of played itself just considering he was replacing Dupree, who was a little bit on a downturn at the tail end after winning Paris. But the big one for me was Mezzi, where they win the fall finals when he had a pretty average performance, and then he turns it around in the world finals, and now you look at him off the rip here in the Blast groups, and he looks great there as well.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's been able to integrate so well, win tournaments off the back of it, and of course, I mean, if you've lifted the major trophy, you've got to get some sort of plaudits. So to me, I just feel like Apex trumps that of Kerrigan's CS2 stint, because you can kind of look at the land runs there, and some of those lands are not necessarily the most prestigious in my eyes. Like you look at the CAC, it's not necessarily the craziest thing in the world. IEM Sydney is the first CS2 land, so there might be hiccups there. And yeah, of course, Snappy, tried as he might, still doesn't have the trophies to back it up. But I think it felt kind of obvious to me that I'd go Apex here, just mainly because of that system integration.
Yeah,
agreed.
I agree. And of course, getting King Mezzi to be one of the best players in the world now. He's the face of UKCS. We'll take it all day. Opener of the year,
and he's qualified for London too.
Exactly, the boys are coming home. Opener of the year. There's no debate here in my eyes. I don't think it's even remotely close. Nico swept this without really, I don't think, too much of a conversation. Obviously, I like what Rain's done. Xerxan, I mean, maybe it's slightly a bit of a rogue shout in a sense. Obviously, I think he's been very good, but Mao's, again, like kind of similar conversation. They don't have the trophies to back it up, where the likes of kind of Rain does or Nico does with Kato and Cologne. But yeah, Nico, there's no choice here. I don't think there was basically too much of a debate at all.
I actually really like the Xerxan pick personally.
Okay.
I think they look so good because of this guy, and I think he's like completely changing the conversation as to how an opener in the modern day exists. I think Nico is obviously going to be an outlier to every conversation because he's just that good. He can control up any part of the map to basically his own whim. You obviously think about Banana on Inferno. You think about basically everywhere on Mirage. And Rain has his moments. He had a great year as well. But I think Xerxan's the one to keep an eye on in a couple of years, when I think maybe they figure out what their fifth situation is. I don't really rate the Brolin situation, but I think if you give him a couple of years, I think he'll really surprise, because I really like what he's doing in the opening department.
Yeah. Then closer. I feel like this one maybe had a little bit more of a debate around it with the closer of the year. I think obviously there's a lot of conversations that Frozen should have been higher on the list. I personally agree with that quite a lot. I always think the HLTV lists are basically always near enough perfect because they're so stat derivative anyway for the most part, so they kind of write themselves. But Frozen, I definitely feel like should have been higher, and I think it kind of even shows when people who are higher on the list than him are saying it. Simple, for example, saying, yeah, definitely Frozen should have been above me. Rops took it in the end. Did actually come to the awards, which is, a bit of a shame. None of the FaZe boys were there. Basically only really like kind of the bulk of Vitality and G2 were there. And then everyone else. Yeah. But yeah, I felt like this was quite a good debate. I think Rops for me deserved it, especially with how good he was in CS2. Like it was just meteoric how well he took off in towards CS2. I mean, it was already good before that, but then that, stepped it up tenfold kind of thing. But I think there's very good arguments to be made for both Frozen and Spinks. Spinks in terms of the trophy cabinet, Frozen in terms of, I guess, like in comparison to the rest of the Mouse team, how consistent and how clutch he was for them.
Yeah, to me, the Frozen. The thing about the Frozen conversation, right? So we'll probably just get into it right now because I don't like how HLTV values every single player on a team, and then if their stats are good, they're automatically bumped up. So I'm kind of thinking about like how a lot of the heroic players snuck in there, and that was just because of their deep placements. And I don't necessarily know if I believe Kaden is a top 20 player, but
I agree.
hey, I mean, the statistics, I guess, and the deep placements allowed him to be there. But to me, a top 20 placement should be how much does one individual impact the result of a team placing highly.
I agree
And
with
for
this.
me, Mao's lifeblood is Frozen. He is that middle of the pack player. He's going third in on T side. He's the one that's rotated position on CT side. He is the star of this team, and he is the kind of, I mean, the team kind of lives and dies by his success. And as you can see, they rose up the ranks pretty quickly with him performing, and they were at a consistent level for quite some time, even when he didn't have all the pieces. So for me, I just feel like he should have been higher. Sure, I think against the rest of the competition in this award, it's a little difficult to put him down as closer of the year. Rob just clutched so much better. I think he had such a more well-defined lurking style. This award was basically born for him, and I think Spinks is actually a pretty close second. In all honesty, I thought he had a fantastic year as well, and he's started off this year just sublimely.
Yeah, honestly, just want to add to sort of the opinion on Frozen, and just very simply, I think if HLTV, like they should make some through some sort of allowance for me of like a player who is very clearly through not the HLTV eye test, the actual eye test of playing matches and literally being one of the most impactful players of the year for a specific team. And as Annie said, basically not carrying necessarily, but being the one player that made such a huge difference in their sort of lifeblood of 2023. So I think in that sense, in the future, I'm pretty sure the majority of people agree. If we use the eye test a little bit more, perhaps, and just solely relying on stats for this one, I think he should be bumped up to arguably, like, I think lots of people were saying he was the second best rifler of the year behind Nico. So arguably he should be like 8th, 7th, something like that. So hopefully in the future, that is something that we will see change. Because really this year, that's the only some of these placings in the rankings this year, the first time really we've had a year where some were a bit rogue, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think the only problem is when they made that subjective, they can be quite difficult. Overall, I just think it's like, I can see people arguing at the like where there's like favoritism and bias has to play in, but at the same time, I always think that. But then the Ballon d'Or, best football player in the world, is also purely done on like journalists' votes. It's all voted in that way. So I guess as long as you have a big enough pool of people, I think how many's on the selective process? Like 40, I think it was for HLTV.
For the awards, I think it was like 40.
Yeah,
or something.
so I think,
but for the actual top 20, it's like just the HLTV. It's like 4 people, like 4 or 5
so
people.
that's where it can actually be a little bit like rogue in the sense that not saying those guys would be biased, but there's it is an inherent risk that they could be. It's human, exactly.
Human nature.
Whereas for example, like the Ballon d'Or, it's like 500 people, so like it's very difficult to kind of have even if you're like as a group bias, it just wouldn't really work in. Anyway, on to Anchor of the Year to kind of wrap it up. I think there's just the last of these in here. Yeah, it is. Anchor of the Year. Flames JKS Magisk, slightly ironic in
Pretty obvious.
Yeah, exactly. But slightly ironic in my mind to have a teamless player in the top 3. Just kind of funny. Obviously, not JKS's fault at all. But I think this one just went without saying. Flames has just been so good. And also the amount of trophies he'd won was pretty top notch. Vitality with Magisk as well. Same for him, right? In the sense that just so solid in terms of what he'd won. Also winning the kind of the pinnacle in a way. I think when it comes down to it, it was only ever really the debate between those two. But I think this one felt pretty comfortable, pretty easy.
I'm glad he got his flowers, man. I mean, he's been such a rock for this team ever since he joined. Like, I mean, even with the amount of turbulence they went through, the fact that he was always stable, second best rifler, now third best rifler on the team, I think he deserved it through and through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, agreed.
Just last thing I want to touch on before we move on to Blast Spring Groups is the Rookie of the Year award. What a load of shit, right? How can you call Nertz a rookie? He's played Pro League.
Yeah, I know.
It's such a bizarre award to begin with, but like, I guess if you follow through with the qualification that they set, it makes sense. But like, I don't know. To me,
I'm
it's
so
like
against it.
It'll always be bizarre when you have older players have their chance to get a Rookie of the Award, a Rookie of the Year award. I mean, well, I think we won't have that issue this year, just because we have younger players that'll get to be nominated for it. Cough, cough, dong.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see, because I think we won't have that happen again.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, the big argument just with this Rookie of the Year thing is like someone like Yimfat, who went from basically playing Tier 3 Academy CS, then stepping into Tier 1 CS and playing at that level. It should have only been him. I think there's maybe an argument to be had for Imma in a way. I don't really, I can't off the top of my head see before kind of that big major run what Imma had done. In terms of like if you played any S tier tournaments with Gamer Legion, I want to say no. So maybe then, of course, Imma takes the kind of the cake there in the sense that he is technically the Rookie of the Year because of that finals run at Blast. But yeah, I don't know. When you think Rookie, it doesn't, like, in terms of what my mind thinks of the Rookie, like someone stepping into Tier 1 for the first time, Nertz was not the thing there. I mean, all of us who are in Tier 2 were like, this guy is like an animal. He'd already played at Pro League. He'd beaten Na'Vi at Pro League, one of the biggest upsets of that year. That to me doesn't really scream rookie, someone who's played S tier lands. But
yeah,
they have their categories, and he did technically fit into it. So, but I'm glad Big Jimmy Sallow got his shout out, man, because that guy had an absolutely stellar year for an actual child stepping up into Tier 1 CS.
Yeah, he's playing tough roles now as well in Mouse. Like he's been playing like Bianca roles and stuff like that. So yeah, I huge props to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll be very interesting to see if he can try to eclipse Sergey's career. I'm always gonna make that comparison because that family has some strong
something
CS
in the
genetics,
genes, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy, but like to see him potentially fight for a major final will be really interesting to see in Copenhagen. I mean, he's got loads of time to match up with Sergey. Sergey only had a couple of years, so I'm sure it's only a matter of time. But it's always interesting to watch that race.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, without further ado, we'll move on to very kind of briefly. We'll touch on the Blast Spring groups. I think this is something that we can touch on closer in more detail, just to London, or maybe even to kind of the showdown as well. Showdown leading into London, but we can kind of touch on how things went over. Yeah, at the old Spring Groups 2024. It's kind of a nice tournament to start the year. It's not got the highest of stakes in the sense there is still kind of a second chance to come through that with that showdown, but at the same time, we still get to see some decent CS out the gate, early doors, see what kind of basically what the big hitters are looking like coming in towards this year, and some pretty interesting stories. So VP FaZe, Na'Vi, and Vitality finishing top of their groups. Very good to see. I think very good, especially for the likes of Vitality and FaZe keeping the consistency, but also very good for, in my opinion, VP and Na'Vi, who I think most people, and probably myself included, wouldn't have really put them as being kind of a top dog potential. I think Na'Vi had the potential of doing it, but I wasn't sure how they'd be. VP, I think everybody sleeps on them, but you got to remember, VP are a top 5 team in the world currently. And then, and of course, we saw the likes of G2 and Astralis net those final 2 spots. So the good thing, I think, for me is, I guess for us as well, Trav, for being in person in London, we've got more or less all the teams I'd want to see there in London. The only one I wouldn't have actually minded seeing someone like Liquid there, but I hate to say, I'm glad I'm not seeing Big. You know what I mean? Like,
they still might go through the showdown. They still might qualify through the showdown. But yeah, I know what you're saying. But the thing is, though, what I'm gonna just like to summarize this groups from what I managed to watch like quite a lot of it. Firstly, sad for Spirit that they didn't get a chance to play with Donkon Lan. Hopefully, that when they play on the showdown, I think they're fine for Kato. At least I think they're fine for Kato. So hopefully they play the showdown and they have their full roster.
Yeah.
I think they can qualify for sure, because the calls that Chopper was making while having a academy stand-in that had never played on LAN before, and their coach, which haven't played full time since like 2013. Like honestly, the set calls from Chopper, especially on maps like Nuke, were really, really impressive, and they pushed multiple teams close. But the thing that I think, as I said, sort of summarizes it for me is the fact that Vitality, I thought they'd sweep. quite easily. But they are getting pushed quite close, getting maps taken off them by the likes of a Falcons, by the likes of Astralis, even losing that upper final to Astralis. And that's a really good sign for a competitive Katowice and rest of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing is guaranteed in this Katowice, and that's what makes me super excited. I mean, we're gonna get all the teams that we want there, bar Liquid, I think. But I mean, things look great in that sense. For me, I think a big thing is about a lot of those new teams that still have a ways to go in preparation. I'm looking at the likes of Liquid, where there were a lot of small mistakes that they had, but overall, I did like what they showed. They pushed FaZe in the maps that they played, even though it was a 2-0, I still felt like they were given a shot. They kept it a little tight against G2, but again, I think there's a lot of small mistakes that kind of blew over for them. And then same thing for the Falcons. I think they have a lot to discuss with Boros. There's a lot of onus on him to perform. He's got a lot of tough roles in the sense that he's got to be a star for the team, and he's no Nico, so there's a lot on his shoulders. And what I'm really excited about is Na'Vi, dude. Like I am so on board with this team. I'm so happy that they're actually performing. And a lot of people still sleep on this team. I've seen a lot of people that still don't think this team can perform. And I am all on board with this team. Like they actually look like a squad now. They don't feel like five players just kind of put together and asked to start winning things. This is the best they look. Their T sides looked some of the best in the entire tournament, to be completely honest with you. Ime looks more comfortable than ever. Bits on a tear. JL's hitting some crazy entries, and hell, Alexi B's calls have just been splendid. I mean, I've really been enjoying watching them play. And of course, I can't forget Wonderful's been popping off as well.
People keep sleeping.
Don't sleep on Na'Vi.
I don't get why people keep sleeping on Wonderful. Wonderful has been that guy for a long time. Even on Spirit, when he got originally dropped from Spirit, we were kind of sat here questioning why. He was an insanely talented player, just young. So when he got picked up by Na'Vi in replacement of Simple, everyone was like, Na'Vi are going to go into obscurity. Wonderful is and has been a tier 1 level player for a long time. When he was playing on Sprout, he was like averaging like a 1.36 or something, just farming
crazy, yeah.
tier 1.5 and tier 2 teams like it was nothing. Like this guy is like tier 1, elite level standard. And I'm glad now he's proving it at a tier 1 level where people are like, oh, actually, this isn't like a gamble on a tier 2 player like some like OG like to take or whatever. This is actually, they're just getting another tier 1 player to replace Simple, who is not Simple's level, of course, but can actually play at an incredibly elite level.
Yeah, low key, I mean, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to start spouting off shit like Simple's not the GOAT from CSGO or anything like that, but genuinely, Simple was quite obviously mentally checked out toward the end of CSGO. He obviously doesn't like CS2 that much. I think he was going to take a break anyway. It was a good time to take a break, but we know he doesn't like CS2 that much.
Yeah.
Wonderful comes in as a hungry youngster who, as you say, was absolutely best tier 2 player in the world on Sprout for that little period he was on that team. Really, I think it's not a surprise in the slightest that Na'Vi have improved. I really think it was coming. Whether they get to an improved level that lets them win big S2 events, I don't know. But this start is very promising.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. I think we don't really need to dwell too much on that. I think maybe we can just kind of finish off by talking about some of the teams that didn't do all that well, who looked quite concerning. Complexity looked awful. I mean, there's no two ways about it. They just didn't really show up for me. I mean, they had moments, but there's just no consistency there. OG, you just got to ask, like, what is the plan at OG? It's like, unironically, I'm not even going to, I'm going to take credit for this, Paladin. You said this to me, but I think you're absolutely spot on. What OG going to do when they can't buy their way into spots anymore? Because this team will not make it. Like, they squeaked through the RMR in the 3rd attempt, if I'm right in saying. I don't think there's always going to be 3 attempts to qualify to the likes of Blast and IEMs and ESL or whatever when the circuit opens in 2025. I'm unironically very worried for OG. I mean, I like the pickup of Heavy God. I actually think he's quite a good player. He's no, flames or nerds in terms of like previous endpoint guys, but I think he can do a job for them. They obviously need somebody to do a job, but this OG team look pretty damn dreadful. There's just it seems like there's no will to win there at all. And Heroic kind of seems the same as well. I like the Heroic team doesn't look great either. It's kind of like Nerds on an island on his own. Kicksan's trying to call stuff, but it just nothing pulls off. There's like no depth or anything. Obviously, they're pretty new. I'll give them that credit.
Yeah,
but
like
there's a lot of questions. Like for me, I look at likes of not complexity actually. I think complexity is a bad tournament, but I look at the likes of an OG, a heroic, a nip, and a big, and I ask questions of like, do you guys actually want to win? Maybe even Cloud9 as well to a degree. I think the lack of AWPers really started to hurt that team quite a lot. I do like the team, but I think the lack of AWPers hurting them. But mainly when you look at big, heroic, NIP, and OG, and I ask like, do you guys actually want to try and win anything, or are you just happy just being considered a tier 1 team because you've bought yourself a spot? Because the NIP team, that's not been working for a year. When do they finally, say, okay, maybe this isn't actually kind of figuring out? Heroic, granted, they're new. I guess we can give them a little bit of leniency. Big, they're obviously just not working, right? They've been trying this full German lineup for a long time now. They've never been a successful team with it. And then OG, like, don't even get me started. What are they even doing? Like, what are they even trying to achieve?
I think OG, sadly, just reeks of mid, and I really want someone to save Regali. I hope he gets an upgrade one day. We'll have to see, because even he's not being able to show his true potential on that team right now, because it's just the mess they have. I think Heavy God is an improvement, but it's not going to propel them. Like, it's just not going to work. Heroic, completely agree. They need more time. I think I actually trust in some of their pieces, but they definitely need more time. Cloud9, agree, they need an AWPer. I think that this system currently isn't working. Boomich has his moments, as we saw that incredible no-scope play on A-Site Anubis, but that's just not repeatable, is it? Exactly. Big, weirdly, you're gonna shout at me maybe for this one, but I know they absolutely shit the bed in the RMR, but that's online Counter-Strike. Weirdly, where they used to... They're all right here. And weirdly, of course, online CS is where they used to do some of their best work, but they look 10 times better on LAN, and they pushed Astralis really, really close, a team who beat Vitality and almost beat them twice, which obviously is weird.
There, though? As in, do you think, can you sit here realistically and think, oh, I think Big can make a deep run at an event? I honestly can't.
Look, if you want to talk about passion to win or stuff like that, I wouldn't put Big out of that category.
No, I'm talking about actually chance, obviously,
no, they won't, right? Yeah. Of course they will. I think they know that. I think the organization knows that. I think all the players know that. I think for them it's more like, can we make playoffs? Can we make the big tournaments? And that's kind of how they've gone about the way they actually play games outside of these big partner events. It shows to me that they're at least grinding it and preparing for the open circuit. To me, I look at an OG or an NIP where I don't see that kind of level of want in terms of trying to play these big CCTs, these kinds of relog type events and trying to grind your way through that. I see Big put in that work. I don't see them put in that work. And even if they did, these rosters don't have what it takes in my eyes. Because I look at OG, I think I've seen some of the most abysmal calling in that organization's history under Kato. Just fucking terrible. Yeah. I cannot explain to you how terrible it was. It's shocking. I think Fiku has spent way too long on this roster. They've been giving him pass after pass after pass because of his roles. I think it's too far gone. I don't like it. I think Nexius should be your 5th best player at best, but he's supposed to be your 2nd or 3rd best player on this team. That's upsetting. And Heavy God, again, should be like a 2nd or 3rd star on this team, not your primary star. And that, again, puts all the work on Regali's shoulders, and this poor kid cannot do everything.
Yeah,
so
I feel
for me, I feel really bad for him, specifically on this roster. And now they're losing Rugga as well. So yeah, that team is just dead in my eyes. I don't see them doing anything relevant. Which is really harsh, but I've been pretty lax on them for years now, and I this is the tipping point for me.
They've also not proved at any point ever that they've made a competent roster move to contend for anything. They
ever since they lost Alexi.
Yeah, exactly. There is not a point that we've seen of this OG team where I can say, okay, that's a roster move with, tier 1 playoff intentions. I really like Heavy God as a guy, and obviously I'm not going to sit here and be biased, but he isn't a tier 1 player yet. He can be. I think he has the potential to be a tier 1 player, but he isn't yet. So that shows that for me, for OG, they're going for kind of the cheaper gamble rather than trying to play their way up. And I guess NRP is the same thing as well. Alex is the same kind of cheaper gamble. I don't think Alex is bad by any means, but he's not a tier 1, caliber IGL in the sense who can push this team to go the distance. And that's the difference to me. When you look at teams that have gone through big roster changes coming towards this year, like Na'Vi, all of those moves are tier 1 moves, every single one of them. But when you look at the likes of an OG, this team just want to coast. They don't want to improve. They could come out here and be like, our aspirations are this, but it's not, because the organization are proving that it's not. It feels like they've got some of the worst management. Like it doesn't. I don't actually blame the players. It's not their fault that they are just at the moment just not better. And obviously without a coach, they're completely screwed. But I think the management, the decisions there. What is going on? Like, why are these the players you're relying on still?
I think a good example of how you differentiate between a team that maybe has pieces that you don't think would be, like really competing is you look at Gamer Legion and you look at their pieces, right? Like, arguably, you look at the rosters side by side and you say, well, like Heavy God's better than a few of Gamer Legion's players. Regali sometimes can be on par with Acor, at least in previous performances, at least in my opinion, in the last a year or so.
Agreed.
But Gamer Legion have, I think, a better coaching staff, better everything behind the scenes. I think Snacks is really doing a great job with how he's managed to lead. And actually, to be fair to them as well, last year they had illnesses, they had visa issues. They actually came into Blast this time with a solid team, ready, fresh, healthy, and they look really good against teams like FaZe. And actually, they will be a threat in the showdown, I think. So. Yeah, I mean, fair play to them. That just shows the difference between those sort of levels of organizations and what the difference is in terms of just ability, it feels like, behind the scenes and stuff like that.
Or Heroic. I think, for me, Heroic feels like a move to actually go back to the top. I think when you look at that team...
I think Heroic are a piece away, man.
I think Nerds, Tessa, Shush, and Kicksam, for me, are they are all tier 1. I will ride that hill of Kicksam for, until I die. That guy 100%. Has it. He is so solid as an IGL. But the fact that he can frag as well at a top level is very,
for
very
Apex.
Impressive.
Was so
exactly.
Cool to watch.
So he's a top player. The only weakness for me is I still have not seen in the last 2 and a bit years that Nikolos can play at a tier 1 level. There's not the proof in the pudding yet. I'd love for him to prove me wrong, but there just isn't any evidence to back it up. He is a very inconsistent tier 1 AWPer, and I think that will hold you back in the same way it holds Cloud9 back. Just not having that regular AWPer at that top level, I think, is going to hold them back. But I think Heroic, their roster moves with aspirations to go to top. Liquid roster moves to go aspirations to the top. OG is not the same thing. NIP is not the same thing. They just want to coast.
Yeah. I think Heroic. I love. As you said, you hit the nail on the head with the core. The core is actually really solid. Nerds, Shush, and Kicksan should stay together for as long as possible. Yeah. To me, I think Tessus is over. Like he's gone past his expiration date. I think it's his time to kind of head out, because I think he was kind of held up by Cadian's system, and now he looks even more out of place.
Sure.
And again, Nikolos is just not it. And if Nikolos doesn't show up, this team doesn't kill anybody. Just straight up. Like it's just hard to win rounds if you don't have him popping off. Now, if you have a tier 1 upper there, then you can kind of say, look, okay, Shush is a really reliable anchor. There's enough support pieces around to bolster those stars, but it can't just be on Nerds. And I think Nerds also has a huge job to do now that he doesn't have Snappy kind of allowing him and showing him where to go and what to do. Yes. Now it's kind of all on the shoulders of Kicksan. And I don't think Kicksan is as managerial as, say, a Snappy might be, where Kicksan is a lot more looser and expecting you to kind of know what to do. And that'll only go so far for Nerds. I think he'll be able to get maybe 50 to 60% of what he was on Ents, but you need that at least 20% more in terms of the floor, so you can get something more consistent out of him.
Also, can I say as well, Saw, that is, for me, any team just picking up Saw is proof in the pudding that they actually want to be top level. Just a very, very good coach. But I think we can kind of move on from there.
Can I ask a question quickly before we end that portion? Obviously, we don't know who's qualified to the showdown through all those qualifiers yet, but 2 spots, who are you picking? Quickfire.
Spirit and Liquid.
I'm probably going to go Liquid. I agree with that. And then from that, I'm looking now at them. Okay,
the showdown's stacked this year. Oh,
yeah,
hold on.
It's actually it's pretty stacked. It's pretty stacked. So I'm probably gonna go. I'm gonna go Liquid, guaranteed, right? And then I think.
Whoa.
Well, no, sorry. So
don't be saying that.
Liquid are my somewhat secure pick, and then I think my second team I'm gonna go is Cloud9.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's fair.
See, weirdly, for me, I'm purely from watching them. I feel like purely because it's the Falcons is the Ents core, I think they can make it work and make it through. I know maybe it's a bit of a controversial one, but I think they can make it through, and I want to pick Spirit as well purely if they have Donk.
Yeah.
So that's for me.
Okay. All right. We'll see. We'll go on to Kato Play-ins. We'll quickly just on this now. We won't go into too much detail because play-ins aren't really that big of a deal. The Kato main stage.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are, Neo.
Yeah. Some fucking sleeper teams here, like Rebels, who went 1-4 in ESL Pro League.
Real team.
Quals.
Real team.
Yeah. For me, this one feels there's such a big disparity between like, you know, like the 8 that make it and like the 8 that don't, essentially. Let's go for the teams quickly. VP, Cloud9, Furia, Apex, Spirit, Fire, BetBoom, Gaming Legion, Big, Astralis, the Mongols, M80, Heroic, and Rooster and Rebels. So then when you look at some of the teams who I don't think have a chance at all, you look at Rebels and Rooster, sorry lads, I hate to say it, M80, I think they probably had a good chance if Manx was playing.
They had such a good bracket if Manx was playing.
Bro, everything was in, you know, it was perfect. The stars are aligned for M80 to make a run, and then again, they get like, you know, just the most unfortunate luck in the world. My heart goes out to M80, man, because, you know, their visa issues tail end of 2023, come into the year, Manx, you know, taken a kind of a leave of absence, so to say, and he won't be playing is Kato, and what was the other one? RMRs, yeah, of course. So, it's a big knock, dude. I really do feel for M80. They're playing with Def. I don't know.
I love Def, but it's not to be, brother.
Yeah, it's, you know, talking about people who are over the hill a little bit. You know, I think he's great out the server, in the server. I'm not going to rely on him that much. I don't think the Mongols have a chance. They play.
I have a feeling they might.
Hold on.
Really, they play some janky CS, man.
That's why.
Look, I know you were talking shit after ECL, right? But when I saw them in Atlanta, they were doing some crazy shit, man. Like it actually was it was janky, sure, but it worked. And I think
so reliant on an individual stepping up. If Mazzino doesn't step up, that team is in the mud. Like I did the Chengdu quals the other day, and so they played against like Score and like X people, battered them, but then when you watch them play against like actual teams of like strats and stuff, like not like mixers, they're like if one person doesn't pop off, they're like they panic. They actually just panic. So I think these top teams will just like slow the game down massively to the point
where it's BO1s, man.
Yeah, but
what I'll say is that first round is BO1.
It's true. But I think if you're any team prepping for a team like the Mongols, just slow the tempo of the game down. And they use, so also in Chengdu, they use all their Uto in like the first like 40 seconds. Like, so I remember there was like 3 different times where they were playing post plants and they had no smoke or molly to deny any sort of space. So they were just raw fighting post plants. And you're like, what are you doing? Like it was even one time they double smoke CT because they just didn't calm. And you're like, it's like small things like that where you're just watching it and you're thinking like a top team will just pick this team apart if they just slow it down a little bit. So I think
you just wait, man.
I like it.
Yeah, it's gonna prove you wrong.
Their bracket's not awful, you know. Like, I mean, Furia is so beatable in a BO1.
And Furia hasn't played an official just far in this year. And they're one of the teams to be super slow to start years. I've seen it so many times where there's an expectation that they're supposed to perform, they have an easy bracket, and they just don't show up off the rip for the first couple of rounds. And again, BO1, I don't know. I
know.
In the BO3, they don't beat Spirit or Apex for me.
Right.
In the BO1, they can beat Furia.
Well, yeah.
Also, their pool is super easy to read. They do the same veto every single time as well. They only play like a few maps. So that's the only thing problem with me. Well, what we can do actually, let's go game by game and just say, you know, kind of bracket by bracket. So Cloud9, Rebels, Eternal Fire, BetBoom. I personally think this is Cloud9 and BetBoom making it to that best of 3. And then Cloud9 making it through. That's why I'd go.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the Eternal Fire BetBoom is probably the best of 1 of the day.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one, the reason why I'm picking BetBoom is I just feel like I enjoy Nafany's calling a little bit more than I do Majors. And since it's a best of 1, there's no world where I think that Eternal Fire can go to like a Vertigo or something like that. And if they can't get onto their specialty maps, their middle of the road maps are far worse than BetBoom's middle of the road maps. So that's why I have them, because it's a best of 1. But I can see Eternal Fire winning. I feel better about BetBoom's floor.
I agree.
That's interesting because I'm not on the same wavelength on that one. I genuinely think Eternal Fire can beat BetBoom, and I think Cloud9, they still have their shaky moments, and I think that BO3 is winnable for Eternal Fire, but we'll see.
Wow, that is bold, dude.
That is quite bold.
I
agree.
That is bold on what, like 18-year-old Wicadia to carry these.
He did it in Pro League.
I know. It's very true.
I know it's bold though. I know it's bold.
Second bracket. This one is actually like quite a cool conversation.
This is so tasty.
So Heroic Astralis Ents Big. As much as annoying to say, I actually think Big beat Ents there. But I think Astralis are the team to make it through. I think they beat Heroic pretty handedly. And then I think when it goes to the best of threes, I don't see Astralis struggling that much. I think they've kind of learnt their lesson of where they let things slip a little bit. You know, you got Yabi mouse wheel jumping and Device. You know, Device has such a bad series in their qualification game, and he's very vocal about himself. I think he's going to be like so motivated to come into this and be like, right, I'm not shit. I promise you. Like, just watch me play. I'm not like a, you know, I'm not a 0.8 rated gamer here. Let me show you what I can do. So I think Astralis come in quite revitalized. You know, they've got the stress out of the way of qualifying to London, and I think for them that'll be like, okay, we've done it once. Much harder teams at Blast. We can do it again here. So I don't think they'll struggle that much.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. Part of me really wants Astralis versus Ents. I just want it so bad just to see Glaive play against his former team. But yeah, I think he's got a lot. Let's just say that I think that Glaive has a lot to prove with this roster, because it is such a bizarre one, and unless proven otherwise, he is washed. Like, that is just what it is, and it's sad to say it, but I need to be proven otherwise. Like, I think the accolades are going to wash away until, you know, he has some crazy run.
The CS:GO accolades, not CS2 accolades. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't see. True. It's going to be a while to get a conversation where we can say about him being back by any means, because he's not proved it yet.
Yeah. For me, Big, agreed. I think, like, they going off form and what we've seen of them, they should go through against Ents. So it's a BO1, anything can happen. Recent form dictates they should. Astralis, I think Heroic. I think Astralis, as you say, I think they're just more structured right now. And arguably, I mean, what they in the rankings right now? They haven't had the Monday update yet, but currently they're 19th. I'll probably get bumped up literally tonight.
Yeah.
But for me, they're like 8th, 7th, maybe even higher right now in the world. So
I agree. Next bracket: Furia, Mongols, Spirit, Apex. I think Furia beat the Mongols. I'm standing on the hill. I like the Mongols, and I am actually I'm a purveyor of Asian Counter-Strike, but Jesus Christ, like, some of the way they play, like, it scares me. But the thing is, the Mongols are also a side who like I love it because you never know what you're going to get. Like, in the sense that, like, you know, I think Furia are the better team overall, and I think Furia should win that in terms of that they are the quote-unquote favorite or whatever. However, the Mongols are a side who, like, randomly are just, like, batter Na'Vi, like, 16-7, and you're like, what the hell happened here? And it's like, you know, so I think there's a chance. I think there's a very strong chance in a best of one they could cause a bit of a ruckus. But I'm sticking with Furia. I believe in K-Strato, and I think when it gets to the best of 3, that for me feels like it's gonna be Spirit, and I think Spirit will take it, in my opinion.
Exactly. Don't care. They're all getting donked. Doesn't matter. It's all academic.
That is true. True. I mean, the one thing I will say is Mongols play really terribly against domestic competition. I've seen them play terribly against domestic, and every time we've written them off, European talent just struggle. They struggle so hard against European teams struggle against this team. But again, I mean, it's still gonna be I think it's a much more even game, that Fury and Mongols game. But yeah, you're right. It's all semantics if Spirit's just gonna shit all over everybody. So
yeah, who cares? You know what I mean? Final bracket: Game Legion, M80, Rooster, and VP. This one writes itself. I think it didn't before the Manx issue. Like, it's if Manx was playing, I actually genuinely think M80 have a chance in a best of 1 and in a best of 3. But I still think VP are the only team making it through this. I think VP at the moment, they are unplayable, but in the worst ways. You know, Sunday Young was talking about it like, oh, it's just the saddest way to play Counter-Strike. Yeah. He isn't wrong. He's not wrong at all. And trust me, if it's a Game of Legion VP like qualification game, I will not be there.
I will not be there no matter what.
Can't pay me. I won't be there. Even if I was paid to work the event, I wouldn't turn up. But
you would. I think we all know you would.
Snooze fest. You can't argue with results though. VP win. There's no two ways about it. Like, yes, their style of Counter-Strike's horrible. Yes, it's so brutal to watch. But Fame and Flip play very well. They're very solid. Jame is still undisputed one of the better IGLs we've got in the world right now. And when it comes down to it, these boys fucking win. There's no two ways about it.
You forgot about my boy Norbert. That dude is like an actual
back.
I love him.
Now.
Bro,
I love him so much.
He's so confident.
Oh
what
my
happened?
god. I mean, this team looks so scary because now they're willing to like execute at a minute 45, minute 30.
Yeah.
And they look scary, man. I mean, I think all of those teams in the bracket will be fucking shitting bricks because they got to go up against Flit and Norbert.
Norbert has ascended for sure. Like, ever since he's not just ascended individually, but like all the roles he plays, I don't think I can ever pick a mistake that he makes in the roles he plays when I watch him play. Online, on LAN, whichever. Like, I think Yongshiping in particular, like, obviously they won Atlanta, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they were flawless in Atlanta.
They were flawless in Atlanta. They did really well in Yongshiping
as well. Challenger Kato.
Yeah, I mean, scary how they've improved. So yeah, very impressive. Whether they can win big events is another matter, but they're a playoff team for me.
Yeah,
for sure.
I agree. So if we're saying let's kind of sort of in terms of agreements, with Cloud9 is the agreement there in that top group. I know you're going for Eternal Fire, Trav, but me in terms of the democracy, we'll go with Cloud9. Astralis, then we go Spirit, and then we go VP, right? So there are kind of top four. Who do you think is the other four making it through? We've got from the choice that basically isn't those big boys. I think, personally, I think Game Legion actually do have a chance when they drop in towards that second wave. I don't think Apex do, in my opinion. No. I think if they do drop in, there's maybe a conversation to be had about Eternal Fire. I think that's warranted. And then probably a team like a Big, for example. I think they've kind of got screwed in terms of the bracket. I think, anyone who's not Astralis in that bracket's kind of got screwed in a way. So I think there's probably a good argument to be made that someone like a Heroic or a Big on another team to make it through as well, depending on how it lies when they fall down. But I think outside of those, Gamer Legion for me and Big feel like a surefire.
So it's four. So the one of Eternal Fire and Bet Boom, one of those make it through. One of I think Big probably make it through if Astralis make it. So that's two. Gamer Legion, let's say three. And if Furia do lose to Spirit or the Mongols or whatever, I think maybe they're fourth for me.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I think it'd be a disappointment for Furia if they couldn't make the main stage. Well, actually, I think they were denied by the Mongols last year at Kato. So I wouldn't be surprised if it happens again. But anyways,
yeah,
I think
exactly.
The lower bracket will be tough for them. And yeah, I have an expectation that Eternal Fire will be the team to make it through the lower bracket. I think, again, if they get into the BO3s, I think they can grind it out. No problem.
Yeah, I agree. I think more or less that can sum up everything over towards the Kato Play-ins sort of thing. Of course, when it gets to the Kato main stage, I might do another one of these, jump on, talk through that a little bit more, and probably in a little bit more depth as well with the likes of the RMR. We're going to keep this one relatively short and sweet. But lads, for the last kind of 5 or so minutes, we can wrap things up with what have we got going on? How then you want to start us? What's on the docket for the next, I guess maybe a month? I think we might do one of these again in a month or so before maybe just post Kato, pre RMR, something like that, if you can find some time. So what's on the docket?
I think we've actually got a pretty healthy month coming up. You and I will be doing Compass for some of the games going on in the contender stage. The teams look pretty good, but we'll be on for that. ECL will finally start up, so both South America, North America, I will be on those broadcasts. IEM Dallas qualifiers will be there, and of course, if you lucky viewers that stay to the end will know that I will be working that. It's leaked, and now everybody knows. So so I'll be there for that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'll be just kind of sticking around, casting. There'll be content coming out. Neil and I will continue doing our series as well. With the predictions, I probably will have to have a tablespoon of hot sauce in the near future. So stay tuned for that.
Oh yeah, Trav, what you got for us?
Yeah, I'll be doing some more open qualifiers. Just I'll literally be starting up just after this stream, doing IEM Chengdu EU Open Qual, streaming that one on my personal stream. As Annie said, I can say likewise. I've got ESL Challenger League coming up. Quite a lot of online games to do with that, which I'm actually quite looking forward to. Some qualifiers, as you say, Dallas Quals. I think I've got one day of EU. That's another hashtag leak that I'll happy to drop in. And yeah, some other quals as well. Should be fun. And whisper it quietly. I don't know if it's happening yet, but I've heard some good news. There's a sneaky chance I might get co-stream perms for Kato.
Oh,
so
dude,
if that's the case,
sick.
if that's the case, I will be streaming Kato, and that should be a lot of fun. We'll see. We'll see.
Dude.
Not confirmed yet.
I hope so. That'd be fucking sick. Deserved as well after like how she grinded out the open qual as well. So absolutely deserved, man. I'll round things off. In a couple of days' time, I've got Blast Iberia quals. This is for Showdown. Got Blast Iberia, 4 days of that, and I got 2 days of Blast NA overlapping in a way. So I go from, I think I start Blast Iberia at midday, and I go until like 8 or 9 p.m. maybe, and then at like midnight I start Blast NA and go until like 6 a.m. and then we just do it again. So I got a bit busy couple of days. Hashtag no sleep. And then like plans, and I'm gonna do a bit of the compass stuff with him. I've got, I think, in total 3 days so far in the first round, but there's 2 more rounds, which are going to be scheduled at some point. So you're probably gonna see me and Paladin around doing a bit of compass stuff. So actually, there's some really good teams in compass as well. To be fair, I'm actually pleasantly surprised.
I actually really liked it.
Yeah. It's already started today. There's a couple of games. I know Sprout beat Enigma Galaxy 13-3-13-2 earlier. I watched a bit of that game. Sprout actually looking really clean with their new signings. I got to be said. A lot of them were a little bit unknown to me as well, and they seem pretty clean. So we'll see how if they can continue to find another super team, they can just continue to find these tier 2 gods out of nowhere. And their academy seems to be pumping out talent left, right, and center. So compass looks really good. Got the IEM Chengdu quals. I've got 2 days of EU. I've already done 1 day of Asia, the Pacific as well, which is when I cast the Mongols. Quite a good bit of fun. And then probably the main one. 10 to hooks here for myself personally. I just got announced today. I'll be doing the RMR, the Americas RMR with PGL. It's pretty exciting times. I have to be said. I'm absolutely honored to be brought on. It's gonna be very good. I'm working alongside Cody Cast. I'm bringing him out of retirement for the second time. Brought him out of retirement for Blast, and now we can do it again. But I mean, it's absolutely stacked, the talent on here. A lot of the bigger names, obviously all kind of a lot of the names you guys are familiar with as well. So it should be very fun. There's a little cohort of us, kind of tier 2, a lot at the bottom. Myself, kind of Tea Time, Yumi, Lucy, B-Dog, Cody, and myself, all kind of the tier 2 gang representing, and then alongside basically the rest of kind of the tier 1.5 and uppers. Should be good. Should be really fun. I'm doing just the Americas, so I've got, I think it's 5 days in total, and I'm away for 7. So 4 days in total, I think it is. I think it's like travel day, rehearsal day, 4 days work, travel back. So it's like something like that. I'm away for a week, out in Bucharest, Romania. Should be good. Yeah, we're all doing it from a studio. I think, judging by the fact that I'm going to be in Bucharest, I think my sleep schedule is going to be absolutely fucked, which is how I like it. I'm used to that with ESL Challenger Melbourne. So we're back again, DGen sleep schedule. But yeah, no, it should be really fun. Working the Americas RMR. Absolutely honored to work with PGL for the first time ever as well. I mean, they're kind of quite a difficult company to get in touch with, so it's good to work with them. It should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. It should be good.
Happy for you, man. Yeah, I mean, that's
it's
we're all
exciting.
What we're all working toward one day, isn't it? Like we've done our online RMRs, but for me and Annie, doing an in-person RMR is our goal for sure.
It's the next step.
But it's glad to at least have one of the 2.5 talent there. So
yes,
it's gonna be great to follow you. And I mean, I'll be pinned to the America's RMR stream anyways, so it'll be nice to have a familiar voice guiding me through it.
And the big hope as well is that, like, with the RMRs, it's obviously it's really nice to be working alongside some of these tier 1 guys, but I'd love to see it be a little bit more of a mix of kind of the tier 2 as well. I feel like this is the best chance to prove, or see how kind of the tier 2 guys can hold their own at a big event, but it's not the end of the world if they're maybe not a little bit up to scratch or need a little bit of work in some areas. So I'd love to see in the future as well a couple more kind of the tier 2, tier 1.5 guys who didn't get a chance have their kind of their flowers on these sort of broadcasts. And then, obviously you can leave the major for the big guns who are kind of guaranteed for that. But it's also an honor to work alongside some of these guys who basically, I'd never even met half of them, which would be pretty cool. Never met the likes of kind of Sponge or like Blair. I'm looking through now. Maniac, never met him. Moses,
it's a lie. You shook his hand at the HLTV Awards.
No, I didn't. I wasn't there.
You were. You were next to me.
What? No, I had my back turned when he was
in the check-in. He came in and shook our hands.
No, I didn't shake his hand. I was checking in. I didn't say hello to him.
I swear to God, you said hi to him.
Swear on my life, didn't say hello.
Okay,
to him.
okay, fair enough then.
Didn't say it. No, because I was checking in. I was speaking to the guy at the computer, so he spoke to you guys, and then he'd already he checked in because he was the guy in front of me. So he checked in, and then he went out the queue, whatever. I went up, checked in, and he said hello to you guys. And then when I turned around, he was gone. So
all right,
still
I'm
hello
lucky.
to him.
Maybe I misremembered it.
But yeah, like a few people like that. Like I just like be cool to. And obviously, I think mainly it'd be cool to see my fucking boys. Banks and Anders. I can't wait to see both of them. The fucking cool. the boys. Yeah. I always enjoy seeing both of them at events. So should be very fun. But that is more or less the next sort of month or so. There's quite a bit going on. It's gonna be good. You're gonna see our faces around. But I think without further ado, we can more or less wrap it up there. So lads, it's been a pleasure. For anyone who is still here, you're on Twitch. Trav is about to go live with the quals, so you're gonna go on and check that out. And if you're watching on YouTube, I don't know, subscribe, like, I don't know, whatever you do on YouTube, don't do it. Go check out the boys.
I saw a few people in the comments of our last episode. They liked what they heard, so we appreciate you guys. We appreciate you guys.
Appreciate it. Go check out the Twitter. The links are below. Paladin's @ is new now. It's actually @Paladin CS2. There we go. @Paladin CS2. It's not that Paladin anymore. But graphics haven't been updated. So you're gonna have to go with it. Links are below though. So either way, been a pleasure, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, I'll see you soon. Take care.